Exposing the secret to faster searches in Excel. Ever wondered how to quickly find data in a sea of numbers? Meet Vlookup. Think of it like this. Imagine you're at a library looking for a book. Instead of checking every shelf, you ask the librarian and they tell you exactly where to find it. That's exactly what Vlookup does. It searches for a value and pulls the right information in seconds. So where does this help in real life? Let's say you have a list of customers in one sheet and their orders in another. Instead of manually searching for each match, Vlookup finds it instantly. Need to fetch prices from a master list? Done. Looking up employee details in a huge database? Easy. If you work with lists, tables, or spreadsheets, Vlookup is a game changer. Master it and you'll be working faster, smarter, and with way less frustration. Ready to take your Excel skills to the next level? Let's go.
Today, we're unlocking the power of Vlookup. By the end of this session, you'll not just know what it is, you'll know how to use it effectively. We'll start with the basics. What is Vlookup and why is it so useful? Next, we'll see it in action with simple Excel examples, no fluff, just hands-on learning. Then we'll break down the full syntax so you understand exactly how it works. How do businesses use Vlookup daily? We'll explore real-world applications. What happens when we scale up? Let's see how Vlookup handles large data sets. And finally, is Vlookup the best option? We'll compare it with other lookup functions. By the end, you'll have the skills to use Vlookup like a pro. Let's get started. Here I have a simple definition of Vlookup, and the whole point. The purpose of lookup is to look for a value in a column and return a result from a cell in a row where a match is found. And this allows us to answer questions about our data. So I have this menu example here. This is a popular example. I use our analogy for Vlookup with this Starbucks menu. If you've ever ordered food off of any menu, then you've actually done a Vlookup in your head. And what I mean by that is, the whole point of Vlookup is to scan down a column until it finds an item. Let's say we want to find the price of the cafe mocha, and then once we find that item, we go over to the right to find the price and a different column. And that's exactly what Vlookup does. And it always looks to the right. And of course, we'll learn more about this as we go. But that's just one simple analogy to help you remember what a Vlookup does. Let's look at an example. Here I have a list of customers, customer ID, company, and country. This information is sitting in a tab called Master. Now, what I want to do is to create two reports. One has a list of customers, and I want to get their respective company and country back here. And number two is that I receive a bunch of customer codes, and I want to see if they actually exist in my master data. Before we use Vlookup to solve for these, let's quickly practice it here. Let's get the customer ID for Kim West. Vlookup. The first argument is the lookup value. That's G5. Next argument is our table array. The table array has to include two things. It has to include our lookup value on the left-hand side and what we're looking up. So we're looking up customer ID. Our lookup value is right here. So we basically need these two columns. And I'm going to use Control plus Shift plus down to highlight this whole area. The next argument is the column index number. That's the column we want to get back. In this case, it's number 2. Now the last argument is optional, but it's quite important because we need to decide if we want an approximate match or an exact match. And because it's optional, a lot of people omit it from the argument. And by default, the value is true, which means that we're looking for an approximate match. So check this out. Does Kim West have this customer ID? Kim West is here. No, Kim West has 4,991. And the reason our Vlookup is not working is because our data set is not sorted. So basically, the column that includes our lookup value is not sorted. Because check this out, if I just right mouse click and I sort this, I get this number back, which is the correct number. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you're going to omit that last argument, make sure that your data set is sorted. So I'm just going to press Control plus Z to go back. Now in this case, because my data set is not sorted, and if you're not sure if yours is going to be sorted or not, make sure you put a false as the last argument. Now you can also put a 0 instead of typing out false. And here we get the correct number. Let's just check this by changing this to Paul Hill. We have the right number. Now what happens if I wanted to get company back instead of customer ID? I can just change this to a 3. It's not working. Why? It's because my table array needs to be expanded to include company column as well. Right, so even if in this case I don't care about customer ID, I have to include it. I can't give Vlookup different ranges. I have to give it one range. And whatever comes in between your lookup value and the result you want, you still need included in your table array argument. Now let's get to completing these reports. And the reason I have many names here is that we need to take care of our fixing. So let's start off with Vlookup. And at first, let's just not fix anything and see what happens. Where's the lookup value? It's this one. Where are we looking things up? Well, let's just take a look. We want company and country. So I'm just going to highlight everything in here. So I can include the header or I can omit the header. In this case, doesn't really matter. Now I'm not going to fix it. I'm going to move on to the next argument is the index for company. Which is which one? It's number 3. And I do want an exact match. So actually, instead of typing out false, let's type 0, close bracket, and press enter. So I get Inkley here. Let's double check. Robert Spear is Inkley. Okay, so now let's just push this down. I'm going to double click here, and it works for this one. There's a problem here. I didn't fix this range, and notice what happens to that. It's a 4 to D32. It starts at a 4, and we end here, which is D32. But when I pull this down, that entire range is coming down, so it's now a 6 to D34. And take a look at who I am looking up is Gary Miller, but I'm only looking from a 6. So Gary Miller must be somewhere on top, which is right here. My lookup range has shifted down to here. It's not finding Gary Miller. So it's giving an error. So the fixing is really important. Make sure you always fix your range. And you can do this by highlighting these and clicking on F4. Okay, so now let's push this down and we have the right company for Gary Miller as well. So now what I could do to get the country is I could rewrite this Vlookup here and just adjust it. Or just make sure I do the fixing of this one correctly and then adjust this number. Or what a lot of people do is that they work with index numbers inside helper cells. So instead of them typing out this 3 here, they actually put it somewhere on their report. So let's say 3 here and 4 here. This way they can just make one formula, do their fixing correctly, and then pull it across and down. So how would I update this formula and use these index numbers here? Well, first off is this C6. When I pull this here, I don't want the column to change, right? I want C to stay fixed here, but when I pull this down, I want the row to be 7, and then 8, and 9. So this means I need to fix the column, but leave the row variable. You can directly put in a $sign here, or you can play around with F4 because it's a toggle. So if I click it again, and then again, the $sign changes position. Now for this one, I want to make this one dynamic as well, so I'm going to click on this cell. How do I fix this one? Well, when I pull this over, I actually want the column to change. But I don't want the row to change when I'm pulling this down. So now I'm going to press F4 again and fix it in this way. Okay, so this concept is called relative and absolute cell referencing. So if you're not sure about this, we will go through it in a separate video. Now let's see if it works. I'm going to pull this across, pull it down. Let's double check. For Wolfgang here, we should have Arcade and Germany. So let's go and see where we see Wolfgang. We have Arcade in Germany. Let's understand why would businesses use Vlookup. In business, Vlookup is crucial for quickly finding and retrieving data from large datasets. It helps save time, reduce errors, and automate processes, making it essential for decision-making in finance, HR, sales, and more. Imagine a company that stores customer details separately from their orders. With Vlookup, employees can quickly retrieve customer details based on order numbers, making operations smoother and reducing manual errors. HR departments use Vlookup to fetch employee salaries using employee IDs. This ensures accuracy in payroll calculations, reducing errors in salary payments and tax deductions. So, in conclusion, Vlookup is more than just a function. It's a powerful tool for businesses to save time, minimize errors, and improve efficiency in daily operations. From finance to sales and HR, mastering Vlookup can make work much easier. In this video, we're going to learn how you can use Vlookup in large dataset. So we have the example dataset here, which has more than 1,000 employees. And we need to find out the hiring date in this column. I don't see the hiring date in this sheet. However, I can see another sheet which has the hiring date, which is on this column. So we need to find out hiring date in this sheet by employee ID. Click on equals to, type Vlookup, and select the employee ID here. Select a comma. Then we need to select the table arrays, basically where we are looking for the data. So we'll select this table by using Ctrl-Shift-All, face down, then press comma. Now, we need to select column index number, so which column we want and written that column index number we need to enter. So, you want to return in the hire dates column. That is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we add one more comma. Now you need to select what type of match do you want. True means approximate match. We want exact match, so we'll select false. Close the bracket and press enter. Now you see all the hiring date has been updated by the employee ID. In this lesson, we will learn the differences between VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP. First, VLOOKUP, also known as vertical lookup. It is used to find values from vertical perspective. Its syntax consists of the lookup value, which is the value you want to look up, the range or the table array, where the lookup value is located. Keep in mind that the lookup value should always be in the first column of the VLOOKUP range. The column index number, which specifies the column number within the range which contains the return value. And finally, an optional range lookup Boolean parameter. To select a matching type, false for an exact match and true for an approximate match. The HLOOKUP works similar to VLOOKUP, but instead of working vertically, it works horizontally. The syntax format stays the same, however. The third parameter is the row number. It works like VLOOKUP, but it now specifies from which row to return. The XLOOKUP is a new addition to Excel's functions. It can either work like a VLOOKUP or an HLOOKUP. However, instead of specifying your search and return column or row on the same array, you could assign them separately. Keep in mind that you could only follow a single lookup perspective with XLOOKUP, either vertical or horizontal. The syntax format is as follows. First is the lookup value. Next is the lookup array, which is your range to search, and the return array, which is your range to return. Let's quickly wrap up what we've learned about VLOOKUP. First, VLOOKUP is a must-know tool for finding data in Excel. It saves time and effort. We explored its syntax step by step, making it easy to apply in real-world scenarios. Businesses rely on VLOOKUP for everything from payroll management to inventory tracking. Finally, it handles large data sets well, but it does have some limitations, like only searching left to right. Mastering VLOOKUP gives you a solid foundation in Excel. Keep practicing, and soon you'll be using it like a pro.